Good evening, it is I, the Sugi Chair BG, and today I'm gonna do a blast from a past. Yes, El Clasico. This is a Final Fantasy X or Final Fantasy X for some hardcore fans. And the game got released on Steam, so I decided to do a review because a lot of eyeballs are probably looking into buying the game or not. You know, whatever this. Hopefully, this video will help you to make that decision: will you buy or will you not? And so to get started, this review will be biased because I have a lot of nostalgia value for this game. When it comes to Final Fantasies, my top two are 10 and 9. I can't really decide which one is better. Maybe when I replay 9 again in the recent future, we'll be doing a review out of that too. I will be having an answer for that, maybe. And Final Fantasy X is rather a revolutionary title. Not only it was one of the first JRPG titles in the PS2, the next-gen consoles, it also changed a lot of the Final Fantasy like basic mechanics. And if you compare like from 5 to 6 or 7 to 8 or 8 to 9, they didn't change too much. But when you compare like the difference between 9 and 10, I think there's a lot of things. Not only it was the first Final Fantasy game to have voice acting, it also was the first kinda to go into fully turn-based Final Fantasy active time battle system, while in like 9 and others the time was going on all the time. Okay, you had Final Fantasy Tactics, but that's kind of hex-based JRPG hybrid, so I guess that doesn't really count. But it also, you know, it was a lot of linear game. It didn't have the world map. It also was the first game where you actually could control the summons instead of them being just spells. And there's just a lot of like value and a lot of changes that I could go on. And also it has the biggest minigame of all Final Fantasy games. There's the Blitzball, which is essentially a combination of soccer and basketball, and so you can kick and toss with your hand underwater in this giant spear, and you have like this triangle goals. And let's get started with like the story and the premise. So I can't go too much into spoilers, in my opinion, because I think that is rather part of the enjoyment, the story. And it is like Tidus is the main character of the game, and he is a superstar Blitzball player. He is playing for the Xenagran Apes. Xenagran is the city where he lives in. And it starts with him playing on a game. There's this cool cutscene in the beginning. Still looks good to this day. And the cool cutscene, and he plays Blitzball there, and he's afterwards, you know, the game, he meets some fans, and I think he even has some like type of flashbacks of his dad, which he kind of has like bad relationship. His dad name is Jekt, and he suddenly this giant creature appears top of Xenarkand. It is known as the Sin, which is kind of like a main villain of the game, and it starts to destroy the city, and the city gets attacked. And then Tidus meets this other guy who is I guess he's his uncle. That's what he calls him. He's Auron. He's also one of the playable characters in the game, and he takes Tidus to this new world. And then Tidus starts his journey in the new world to go back to Xenarkand. But I wonder what I would do in details. But the world he goes to is not 100% same as his old world. This whole world thing I won't be going too much into details because the sequel also kinda goes into this whole like world detail. But essentially, some like few hours into the game, he meets Yuna, who is this summoner, and I think it's every 100 years or every 300 years, the summoners are meant to go to these temples throughout the world and collect the summons and then destroy Sin. And they're just type of like a pilgrim, fuck, I can't say that word, but it's just like a very, you know, I would say like, you know, very old school fantasy concept, like a very, very adventure style of concept. Like you're kind of pitched the idea, the ending in the beginning of this game. You're pitched like this is how it's gonna end. The journey is gonna end when Yuna will be defeating Sin. you're telling that in the start of the game. That's kind of like if compared to an anime reference, like in One Piece, you kind of pitch the idea that the One Piece will end once Luffy finds One Piece. So you're kind of pitching the idea how the game is going to end, will be the conclusion, when is the end closing in, and I like that. I really like that a lot, because it gives you some type of an understanding. The world of Spira is very detailed, and like it has like this population of 6 different races. You have the humans, which are also known as the Spirians. That's a word they don't use in the game though. And then you have the Alpid faction, which are the outcasts of the humans, which are using technology. And the other faction are called the Quado, who are, use magic, and they're kind of war with Alphabet because they don't approve or sanction each other. And the thing is, in the old world where Tidus came from, magic didn't exist, creatures, beasts didn't exist. It seemed like a very advanced, like high-tech world essentially. And then you have the High Pillows, Cactuars, and Ronzos, and I really like the designs in this game, because not only you have like one humanoid character, which is the Kilmari Ronso, and I think if I look at like the newer games like Final Fantasy 15 and Final Fantasy 13, I think the newest character designs on those games are rather lame and boring. Kind of applies to Final Fantasy 12 too. So I think this is the last game where the kind of designs were really unique and cool. And where we should move next. Okay, so I mean, the story going into that, like, even some people have criticized the voice acting. I don't think it's that bad. I think the Steam version has an option to play it on Japanese audio. I really like the story in this one. It not only it shows the journey, and it is just very. I don't have words to describe it, but it just portrays so well that classical fantasy style of a storytelling, and it's just also the music in this game. Final Fantasy X, hands down, has the best Final Fantasy soundtrack. There are some individual tracks in 7, 8, and 9 that are better than some of the tracks in Final Fantasy X, but overall, if you look like by track, Final Fantasy X has the best soundtrack. It's absolutely beautiful. It's very, very soulful music. In the temples, in the Spira, you have this type of like a hymn type of a music, and there's such much feel into it. There's so much like soul into the music in this game. It is just a top-notch soundtrack. There's no better game soundtrack that gives me such a feeling or impact. And it is just very well tailored. And let's talk about the combat system. The Final Fantasy X uses like this sort of a spear grid system, so every character is able to learn each other character's abilities. If you have played game like Path of Exile, it's similar to that. Everybody starts with a different point in the spear grid, and they can move towards the other one, like the trees. And but everybody has their own separate like overdrives, which are trance or limit break essentially. And you have some distinctive, like, for example, Yuna is the only one who can summon in this game. So, and the summons, like I said, you can able to control the summons in this game. You are able to level them. You are able to learn abilities for them. And they also have overdrives. You also have 3 secret summons which you can obtain. So you have a lot of side content in this game. Like, obtaining the summons is actually kind of hard, so you might want to look some walkthroughs for that. But the problem with the secret summons, especially in this game, I think they're very overpowered. Playing the game with summons, especially the Magus Sisters, makes the game super easy. I think you kind of steamroll in the end, and I think the last boss was really easy with the summons. The summons kind of make it very easy. You don't get to have Yuna all the time throughout the game, and some bosses may have some anti-summon spells that like one-shot the summons. Those are usually the hardest bosses in the game, but overall I think it's rather difficult game. It offers, of course, the secret boss, which is the alternative final boss, which is rather hard, the Omega weapon. And, you know, you have a lot of grinding in the game. You have the chocobo racing, the monster arenas. You can collect the celestial weapons, which are essentially the ultimate weapons for each character. And then you have Blitzball. The Blitzball is, you know, like I said in the beginning, it is essentially basketball fusion with soccer underwater. And in this system, you can like recruit characters throughout Spira by talking with them with a secret button, and they will join. You're able to like enlist them to your team. I think you can like have 11 players. You will have 5 players on the game itself, and you have like goalie positions, and you can have different formations, and you have different statistics and abilities inside the Blitzball. You can sink hours, tens of hours into the Blitzball. You have separate Blitzball levels, and you can find like all the statistics and which are the best characters in the Blitzball game. Blitzball is really fun. It is some difficulty in it depending on which characters you will be enlisting for your team, and it is overall really, really fun, and it is the most depth minigame ever made into Final Fantasy. And some people don't like it. I love it. Yeah, I think there's a lot of depth into it, like the whole, there's also like a system and poaching system, and they have leagues, tournaments, you can get like items and even overdrives for Waka, which is one of the characters in the game, from completing the leagues and tournaments. And the game, you know, the combat is really cool. You have different abilities, you have, there's so much things to talk about. I don't want to make the video like 1,000,000 hours long, but this game is really fucking good. It is like one of the best JRPG games out there. It offers you like anywhere from plus 30 hours in the main game. Then you probably can add extra 30 hours by getting all the celestial weapons, completing the alternative final boss, and then you have the Blitzball thing. And the game, it's like also in the graphical sides, the Steam version and all these remake versions look really good still. The CGI still amazing, and it is also one of the cool things about the combat is you're able to swap out the characters, and that's something that never exists in all the other Final Fantasy games. And you're able to like, you know, rotate the characters like using an overdrive and then swapping him out. And it is like amazing. The combat is definitely kind of easier when you can look at the previous games, but it does offer that like very, really high, you know, challenge if you want to go through those alternative bosses. There are some bosses that you can lose to or beat to, as for example the Chocobo Eater. So if you really level out in the very beginning, you can defeat the boss. And it is a very like emotional Final Fantasy when you kind of think about the theme. And I think the sequel plays a lot part in finishing the story. And the sequel actually has multiple endings, but that doesn't apply to Final Fantasy X. I definitely recommend buying this game from Steam because you get both games. And X2 is also a really good game, but it's like comparing the two. Like I said in the beginning, Final Fantasy X is rather linear. I mean, you can at some point of the game you can get an airship and you can travel around the map, but there will be places that you can't enter no longer, and there will be like a time like where you just can only go like straight through. So it's very linear until to a point X, and it is, I don't know, I love this game. Definitely buy it, guys. I'm not gonna chat no longer about this, about repeating myself, but it's a good value for money. Offers great hours, great story, great character designs, great combat, great mini games, amazing soundtrack, and yeah. And that is for my review. Stay tuned. I will be doing X2 review at some point in this channel, and other Final Fantasy games once I get around. You know, completing them takes a long time, guys. So I'm looking forward to, of course, Star Ocean 5 and, you know, other games that are coming out this year. Cheerios. I will see you next time.